Sometimes I lay under the moon and thank God I'm breathing. And I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more war, and our children will play. One day, one day, one day. One day, one day, one day. It's not about win or lose, 'cause we all lose when they feed on the souls of the innocent. Blood-drenched pavement, keep on moving though the waters stay raging. In this maze, you may lose your way. Your way. It might drive you crazy, but don't let it faze you. No way, no way. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more war, and our children will play. One day, one day, one day. One day, one day, one day. One day this all will change. Treat people the same. Stop with the violence, down with the hate. One day we'll all be free, singing songs under the same sun, singing songs of freedom. Why oh, why oh, why oh, why oh, oh, oh. One day, one day, one day. Thank you.
So we do have a lot of talent in this particular community, and it's spreading. Our own, let's say our own Reverend Lezli Goodwin is here from the Valley. She is the staff minister in charge of social ministry here, and I'm very excited to welcome her up here. I get a hug.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Reverend Kathleen. One day. One day. One day? Someday? Am I audible? Oh, great. I can't hear me, so I'll just have to believe you. If I go quiet, like gasp or something, so I know. So I'm Reverend Lezli Goodwin. If I haven't met you, hi. And I am co-senior minister of New Vision Center for Spiritual Living in Phoenix, which is, half a job, which left me with some time when Reverend Kathleen said, come play with us up in Prescott at this community that I love. I've been coming up to sing here for years and years. And so, of course, I couldn't pass up such a beautiful invitation to come and play with this community and help let people know that y'all are here, because this is the best kept secret in Prescott, and I don't think we want to keep the secret anymore, right? So I've been playing with growing the online presence with social media, and we're going to be working on the website and having all kinds of fun. I love the song choice. I too have been waiting and praying for people to say that they don't want to fight anymore, that we don't want to have people hungry, that we don't want to have people suffering, that we don't want to have children being trafficked. These are things that can be politicized, but I think it's safe to say none of us want children to be trafficked, yes? None of us want people dying in the desert because they're trying to get from one country to another, right? There's thing after thing after thing, and I know that this community has at the very center of its heart this desire to reach out, to be a place of outreach into all kinds of different ways in which we can make a difference in the lives of fellow human beings. I want to talk to you about Ernest Holmes. You might have heard of him? Yeah. So this is a story that comes from Ventura Papke, and she was actually, at the end of his life, she was his personal practitioner, Ernest Holmes' personal practitioner, after Hazel died, his wife. And she tells this great story about how he would sit out on the steps of the Institute in Los Angeles, the Institute of Religious Science. He would sit out on the steps and just talk to whoever went by. And she said he especially liked it if they were, her words now, bums or drunks. He loved to talk to the people who were experiencing homelessness. He loved to talk to the people who were experiencing addiction. And she said, you know, you'd see him talking, and then about an hour later, you'd see him in the basement of the Institute where they had showers and a little closet with extra clothes. And you'd see him getting all cleaned up and having a coffee. And a couple weeks later, they might be a minister. And that's how I came to be here. That was Ernest. Interesting thing has happened in the intervening, 80 years. And that is our buddy Ernest, he wrote a lot, yeah? Yeah. And we love to gather up things that he actually said that were transcribed and make them into more books, yeah? We're a big fan of that. Rearrange it, do it again. So he said a lot of things. And somewhere along the line, as a movement, we got really, really focused on everything happens in consciousness. You've heard this. Everything happens in consciousness. What do? We pray. Because everything happens in consciousness. You have to be in the cause to make a change. And the cause is consciousness. But we forgot the other part, which is treat and then move your feet. We pray, yes, we do pray, and then we go do something about it. Oh. There is my apologies if you don't know about this raging conflict going on in our movement. Surely not here. But in the greater movement, there's this raging debate going on between, do we only work in consciousness, or do we treat and move our feet? Do we get together and pray and that's it? And if it hasn't demonstrated, pray more? Or do we do things like outreach and organized movements and contributing to food pantries and whatever other wonderful activity you guys have been up to around here? Is this part of the equation actually against our teaching? And it's like 50-50, y'all. If we had a room full of ministers, it would be like 50-50. Half of the ministers would be over here going, nope, we just pray, we just meditate, we just work in consciousness, and that side figures itself out. And then you've got this side, and they tend to look a little bit more like me, a little bit on the under 50 side. May have some creative hair color choices happening, some gauged ears. We make them very nervous. The visible tattoos, we make them very nervous. And we're over here going, hey, wait, there's got to be a bridge between the two sides. Because, yes, everything happens in consciousness. But then somebody has to walk it out, right? Do you think we're praying the other people to do it? It's a neat trick if you can pull it off. I'm going to argue, and perhaps you will come with me on the journey, I'm going to posit that the solution to this dilemma is built into the question. That it's not a dichotomy, that it's a false dichotomy. It's not do we pray or do we act. It's yes. Yes, we pray and we act. But it's got to start from the inside out, and it's got to start in that place of cause, that place of consciousness. So what do we do first? This is an easy one. You guys know this answer. What do we do first? We pray. We pray. And if we feel like our prayers aren't getting us there, we do what? Pray more. Go to a practitioner. The practitioner prays more. Take a class. Get better at praying. Right? Because we've got to align ourselves with indwelling spirit. That's the first step. Sometimes we see people who are out there doing action and there's anger at the base of it. There's violence at the base of it. There's judgment at the base of it. You've seen this, right? Even when it's the most altruistic thing, it starts to be about those stupid people who voted for bloobity blue or didn't vote for blobbity blah. Those, perhaps you've heard these words, those idiots. They hate America. Dear Lord, if everybody hates America who's been accused of hating America, America is in trouble. Nobody hates America, or at least the vast majority don't. That's what happens when we don't start in spirit. When we see something that needs to be done and we go right into action instead of praying first, we get ourselves in trouble because we're not aligned with the truth of who we are. Even when the action is great, even when it's the most ideal thing possible for us to be doing out in the world, if our motivation is, I got to clean up this mess because the stupid people messed it up again. I have 5 children between the ages of 18 and 26. I hear a lot of that young cynical judgment that can happen. The stupid people. Well, we don't want to be the stupid people. And we don't want to be looking around in that judgment place. That's so the opposite of the energy of this teaching. We want to be in the place where we know, where we know, where we know, where we know. You know, people worry a lot. I hear a question a lot. How do I know if this is mine to do? How do I know if I'm really being whispered to by spirit? Or if it's just my voice in my own head. Have you ever wondered that? What if it's always spirit? What if that still small voice in the back of your mind that goes, somebody should do something about that. Somebody should really do something about that. What if that's the God tap? What if that is the call? I think we're all waiting for like Jesus and Mother Mary to materialize in full corporeal form and say, you will raise money to stop hunger. I'm not going to say that's not possible, but I'm not going to hold my breath for it either. What if that little whisper in the back of your mind that says, oh, that should be different? What if that is the call? And we're so busy wondering if it really is spirit that we're not listening to the instruction. Ernest put this beautiful meditation at the back of the textbook. Have y'all found the meditations at the back of the textbook? Oh, so yummy. And he said, the voice of truth speaks to me and through me. The voice of truth guides me and keeps me on the path of the perfect day. I will listen to the inner voice, and it will tell me what to do in the hour of need. I shall be told everything that I ought to know when the time of need arises, and I shall not be misled. The voice of truth cannot lie, but always speaks from on high. Nothing enters but this voice, for it is the voice of God. Nothing enters but this voice, for it is the voice of God? What would life be like if we acted on every divine idea that wandered through? I bet that young lady could use a ride. I have an extra $10. I could give it to the food bank. How many times do we shut down these, what I'm going to call micro calls? Because it's easier to think, oh, that's just a thought, than it is to actually follow the guidance of the voice that, what was it said? Cannot lie, but only speaks from on high. What if that voice is how God is using us? We get in alignment by praying and meditating. Every day. Every day? Every day. Every day. Every day. Somebody once asked me, are you serious? Every day? Like, you're kidding, right? Like, oh no. Every day. All the days. Twice on Sunday. And when we're in that alignment and the voice comes through, and we know when we're in alignment, the voice that comes through is always the voice of God. You know, there's a reason Ricky Byers-Beckwith wrote the song, Use Me. Use me, oh God. I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you comfort me and show me what I must do. Use me. There's the point in spiritual development where we recognize that there's a power for good and we can use it. And it's awesome, right? Yeah. Ooh, it's good stuff. We learn how to handle our lives and control what's going on in our world and take personal responsibility and manifest, and things change and we get healthier and we get happier and our relationships get better and things get more exciting and it's good. And then we hit the wall where it's not quite enough yet. Anybody bumped into that edge? I've leaned on that edge, right? And there's something more. There's something more. And that something more is there's a power in this world for good, and it can use us if we listen and then act on what we're shown. So when the call rises up, I invite you to just, do the scroll back through the memory. What little calls have popped up that you've kind of been like, that sounds inconvenient or expensive? What has popped up in your life when you thought, somebody could, I really wish that somebody would. Why haven't those stupid people done that? Because we're somebody. We're the somebody. Gertrude Farr was a somebody. In 1919, she was a little girl, little, and her daddy went to war in World War I. They lived in England, and this is a time of trench warfare. And he was so proud to serve king and country, so proud. And she was so proud of him. For 2 years straight, this man served in trench warfare. 2 years straight. We know now that that's a really bad idea. They didn't know then. And after 2 years, he started to show erratic behavior. And then it got worse, and he stopped showing up, and he became violent. Eventually, he disappeared, deserted. England did what England did in those days, which is catch him. And in a 20-minute trial, he was convicted of being a deserter and convicted of cowardice, was the actual charge. And he was shot by firing squad, along with 305 other British soldiers who had similar situations. Gertrude knew her dad. She knew that he was not a coward. She knew he did not quit on England. Something was wrong that they didn't know how to handle. And as she got older and older and older, psychology developed and eventually had a name for it, post-traumatic stress disorder. Or if you're still in the war, just traumatic stress disorder. And so she started talking to people about having these posthumous rejections undone. Can we have this conviction overturned? For years and years. And as she got older, her daughter joined the lobbying. And more family members of these 306 men joined together. And in 2009, unfortunately after Gertrude had passed, but her daughter was still living, England vacated all of those convictions. It didn't matter to the soldiers that died. It didn't matter to their wives because they were gone. But it mattered to their families, and it mattered to England to set it right. And over decades, people kept asking her, it's not going to bring him back. Why do you care? She said, something in me just says, I have to do this. I may never accomplish it, but for the rest of my life, I have to try. She was aligned. She was hearing. And she was following the message that came. And you know who it really matters to? Today's soldiers. Today's warriors who recognize that even literally 90 years later, it was worth setting it right for them so that they know that if they have psychological problems because of the work that they're doing, that they're still held in honor. This is just one family story, but it became 306 family stories, and then it became millions of family stories. My husband is a veteran from the first Gulf War. My oldest son works in contract with the NSA doing something he can't tell me about. And my youngest son is about to join the Air Force. It's become one of my family stories. I look forward to that day when my sons aren't going into the military. And in the meantime, I'm thankful that I know the moral conviction of these young men, which you can do when you raise them up yourself, you know. DIY Air Force. Here's the thing, though. Gertrude sets a really good example because what she did not do is go yell at people about how they screwed it up. What she did not do is throw blood on, it's not senators, I can't think of what they call them in England, MPs? She did not throw blood on the MPs. She respectfully, and increasingly loudly, but respectfully asked for what she wanted. She focused on being for something rather than against. For something. And that's what Ernest taught us. And this is where I think the line in the sand needs to be. To be for something and against nothing. To focus our energy instead of being against child trafficking, which is like howling into the wind. To be for therapy and treatment for these children when they're taken out of abusive situations. To be for family and child services to help protect children from landing in these situations. This is just one topic. There are a gajillion. Whatever's up in your heart, that's the one for you. Go for it. But before you open that beautiful mouth, what are you for? What do you want? Because if we put our energy behind no, we get nothing. Except for the frustration of the waste of our time. That's the way the law works. But when we put our energy behind yes, There is nothing we cannot do. There is nothing we cannot be. That is what our teaching tells us. When we align from the inside, when we pray and we meditate and we let the call come up and we witness it and we recognize it and we own it and we decide what we want that situation to look like, and then we move from that space, that's the energy that heals the world. That's the energy that moves us forward. This work, the work of spiritually motivated social activism, which is something that's big in my own insideness, has changed my life more profoundly than I could possibly say. Whether it's from creating spaces and supporting spaces that are radically inclusive, no matter who you love or where you come from or what you've done in your life or what you think you can do, what you look like or where you've been or what your parents think or what you think, whatever your beliefs are. Creating spaces where you can walk in and feel loved just as you are. That's spiritually motivated social activism. This was a radical idea when these centers were being created. And now, have you noticed the rest of the world seems to be joining in? From my work in prison ministry, because y'all, it just breaks my heart to think. I don't care what they did. I truly do not care. But to think that the worst thing someone ever has done in their whole life is the thing that defines them forever, to everyone they will ever meet again in prison, and to themselves, that breaks my heart. But we can make sure that they have a different message. That even while they pay their dues, because I'm all for responsibility, that there is still a message of hope and connectedness. Those are just the ones that are up for me. Whatever is up for you, I hope that you will listen to it. I hope that you will act on it. And I hope that you will keep praying up so that that message stays pure in your heart. Thank you. So it is.